Do you ever wonder what separates you from a top tier pro player? Depending on your skill level, there might be a lot of things, but in this video, I'm gonna talk about the 5 biggest reasons that pros are pros. And if you're feeling stuck at a certain skill level, maybe this insight will help get you out of that rut. Before we hop into it, I just wanna let you guys know we have a lot of new duo practice maps just released. For example, Duo Forever Zone Wars is officially out, and All-in-One 2v2s is released, and it had some bugs at the start, but they're all fixed up now. Codes to all my maps are down in the description, but let's hop into this video. Reason number 1 that pros are pros is because they have very flexible mechanics. You're probably wondering what flexible mechanics means. Let me explain. During a fight, it is super hard to catch a pro off guard, and that's because of their flexible mechanics. Now, when I'm saying flexible mechanics, that means they're able to change what they're doing on a moment's notice. For example, when doing a retake like this, there's a lot of different directions you can go throughout that retake. So when a pro does that retake, they're gonna be right here and they're gonna realize, oh, you're holding a pump shot right there. You're holding your pump out. And they're gonna side jump and get you pieced. At every point in the fight, they have their eyes on the enemy and they're adjusting their retakes based on what the enemy's doing. Versus on the other hand, someone like me, I'll just go through and I'll always just triple edit and then boom, I just get max pumped right there. You know what I mean? The ability to have flexible mechanics and change what you're doing at any point in a fight comes from just practicing a variety of retakes. So when you're free building, instead of just always doing the same thing, like maybe you're just doing this on repeat, start switching directions, like throw a side jump in there. Do a triple edit out here, then boom, another side jump. Practice doing all kinds of misdirections while doing your free builds, and that'll lead to you having a less predictable playstyle and more flexible mechanics like a pro. The second thing that makes pros pros is what I like to call walking mechanics. You know how when you're walking down the street, you don't even think about it. One foot goes in front of the other. Well, imagine while you were walking, you had to think like, okay, now right foot go, now left foot go, and you're just moving mad slow and super distracted because you're only thinking about how to walk. The same thing applies when building in Fortnite. If you can get to the point where building feels literally like walking, you don't have to think about it, you just do. You got the muscle memory down and you know a variety of moves to handle every situation. That is what I call walking mechanics. The biggest reason this is such a game changer to have is because if you have walking mechanics, you're going to have the most god tier awareness of all. Because all the other people that you're fighting are going to be thinking super hard about what build move to do, how to do it, and they're going to be so much slower with it. Meanwhile, the guy who has walking mechanics is able to not think about their building at all and rather think about how they're going to outplay the opponent. They can keep their eyes on the enemy the entire fight because they don't have to worry about getting their mechanics right or choking edits. It's just all natural. They're just running around boxing everybody, no effort. People look at pros and they're like, dude, why are you trying so hard? But the truth is, the pro probably doesn't even feel like they're trying. Building fast doesn't mean trying hard. It just means they have a lot more hours in the game and they probably have built up those walking mechanics. The way to get walking mechanics is to spend a ton of time in creative. If you just play the actual game, you're gonna get way slower mechanical practice, but by spending time in creative in maps like Forever Zone Wars, where you never stop fighting and you're always running around building super fast, aiming, that's a great place to get super comfortable in your mechanics. If you're more of a beginner player, you might want to start out in some mechanical practice maps like my How to Piece Control map, and then go into some 1v1s, but as long as you're spending a lot of time in creative, eventually those walking mechanics are going to come. The third thing that separates you from pros is the way they communicate throughout a game. If you feel like you and your teammate have bad communication throughout a game, you should definitely start watching more pros together and take notes about how they communicate. Here's a simple example of how pro communication is different from casual. Let's say you and your duo are in endgame and somebody starts breaking in your tarp from above. This may sound stupid, but a lot of beginner players will yell something that doesn't give enough information, such as look out or enemy. They just say that there's danger, but they don't say from where. Or they might be too descriptive, where they might say there's an enemy smacking our tops. And if that sounds like you, don't worry. A lot of people are like that, especially as they're getting into the game. The reason that's a problem is because you want your communication to be quick, clear, and as concise as possible. Instead of saying there's somebody smacking on you from above, say watch your tops. Something simple and quick. Building that efficient and clear communication is so important, but it does take a lot of time. That's one of the reasons why sticking with one duo for a long time can be good, because then you guys can work together by watching your games back or by watching pros together and talk about how you want to be communicating throughout an endgame. Not everybody says the same type of comms, so work together and build something that makes sense for you. Anytime there's miscommunication, don't get mad at each other. Instead, watch it back and see how you can fix it going forward. Another common example that oftentimes people get confused about is people will say on your left, but then they turn to their left and the enemy was actually on their right. And the reason it can get confusing is because some players, when they say on your left, it means on the left side of your tarp when facing forward. But sometimes players will hear on your left and they'll turn to your left, but the left is actually your right when you actually meant the other side, and then blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? That's why you need to work over time to get clear, concise communication that works for you. So there's none of that miscommunication. One other important thing is getting clear communication of when to fight and when not to fight an endgame. For example, if a new zone is about to open in the next like 5 seconds, don't start a fight. Instead say, let's chill, the zone's about to open, something like that. You know, having clear communication of what you guys are doing at all points in an endgame takes time. You got this. Work through it, and it'll make a big difference for you. Reason 4 that pros are pros is their ability to adapt every single season. Each season has new locations, new terrain, new weapons, new rotational metas, and as you probably know, pros are always the first to adapt to these new metas. The reason is they play a lot, they look out for any new strategies that get put out on Twitter or YouTube, and then they instantly master them. Rather than just watching the video, they might work to implement it and try it out as soon as they get on the game. But more importantly, they are always on the scrim grind at the start of a new season. Playing scrims as a new season pops is the best way to get used to new metas, because then you can get used to the new rotations, the new surge spots, everything that changes each season. That's the way to do it. And that leads me into my last point. The final thing that separates pros from casuals is scrim experience. But not just scrims, you know, tourneys and scrim experience. Scrims are extremely vital to adapting to the new seasons, fine-tuning your strategies, your communication, and building confidence going into tourneys. If you're playing up against people that have scrimmed every single day for the season, they're going to be moving like a unit in endgame. Meanwhile, you and your duo might be a little bit uncomfortable, have some miscommunication, and just be overall sloppy. A lot of people think that Fortnite is a very luck-based game, and it kind of is, but pros qualify to every single tourney. And the reason they do that is because they have the strategies on lock from scrimming and VOD reviewing. My advice to you, if you're really working on your competitive grind, is spend time VOD reviewing your scrims, taking notes, and then remind yourself of those notes every single time you go to scrim. Then do the same thing the next day. Every single time you VOD review, take some notes, and then at the start of the next day, remind yourself of those notes as you're going into practice. That's going to be the fastest way for you to fix your mistakes and really get set up for tourneys. This has been 5 reasons pros are pros. I hope it helps you out. Don't forget to check out the creative maps down below. We have so many fire ones that just came out and more on the way, so stay tuned. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.